Moncton's appeal used to be simple: affordable living, friendly people, and a slower pace of life. But is it still worth moving here in 2024?
Hi there, we are Denise and Marc, a husband and wife real estate team here in Greater Moncton. And every week, people just like you reach out to us, whether they're buying, selling, or relocating. If you're ready to explore your options, our contact information is in the description below. We'd love to hear from you.
Since 2019, approximately 25,000 people have moved to the Greater Moncton area, pushing our population to almost 180,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of growth for a city this size. So what's been drawing people here, and is Moncton still a smart move in 2024? You might be thinking it's got to be the affordable real estate, and for the most part, you would be right. But while housing prices put Moncton on many people's radar, there's much more to consider. We're curious, what about you? What would be the biggest factor for you when considering a move to a new city? Let us know in the comments.
Okay, let's dive in and break down what people look at before deciding on a move. Cost of living is a big one. It's one thing to buy a home, but you've got to ensure that you can comfortably handle everyday expenses too. We'll get to housing in a bit, but generally Moncton's cost of living is still relatively affordable compared to other Canadian cities. We did a full video on the cost of living, so we'll link that for you.
Then there's the job market. It's hard to enjoy an affordable lifestyle if you can't find work. Moncton's economy is quite diverse. We don't have one large industry that's dominating. In 2023, Moncton saw a 5.6% rise in employment, adding 6,500 jobs, more than any other city in New Brunswick. Over the past few years, Moncton has generally outperformed cities like St. John and Fredericton. However, one thing that comes up is that many jobs aren't as high paying as in other parts of the country, which is something to consider when factoring in your overall cost of living.
Our local economy continues to be relatively stable with moderate yearly growth and no signs of slowing down. As our population increases at a faster pace than many other parts of the country, so does employment, tax revenue, retail sales, home sales, construction, and the many other factors that come into play in the city's economy.
Even though data shows a slight uptick in overall crime, over the last 2 years with break-and-enters and possession of stolen property seeing the largest increases from 2022 to 2023, Moncton's crime rates are generally lower than the national average, with total crime sitting around 3,200 per 100,000 people, which is 23% lower than the national average. Violent crimes and property crimes are also slightly lower than the national average.
Regardless of being well under the national average, longtime Moncton residents have seen changes as the city has grown, and safety is a concern for many. It's something the Kodiak RCMP is actively working on through town hall meetings and studies to see how they can improve. They've been encouraging people to report suspicious activities, even minor ones, to better identify crime trends and target resources where needed.
Moncton has nearly all of the amenities you'd expect in a bigger city, from local coffee shops to restaurants and entertainment venues to recreational facilities. You'll always find what you need close by.
Even as the city grows, Moncton continues to have a small town feel, and people are generally very welcoming. There are many organizations to help you integrate into the community, and lots of events, particularly in the summer months, where you can meet people. Most neighborhoods also tend to have things to bring them together, from Facebook groups to block parties or annual yard sales. Unless you are making a conscious or unconscious effort to keep to yourself, becoming part of the community should be relatively easy.
Moncton has a pretty good bus system as long as you understand that unlike bigger cities, the frequency at which a bus goes by your stop may not be as often as what you're used to. So you'll need to allow a little extra time to get where you need to be. Uber hasn't made its way to Moncton yet. I think it has to do with the insurance rules, but we do have cabs. Or if you like cycling, the Greater Moncton area has many kilometers of bike lanes and trails to get you where you need to go.
Greater Moncton has many really good schools, both public and private, from K to 12, 2 community college campuses, several private colleges specializing in different fields, 2 universities, Université de Moncton and Crandall University, as well as a 3rd university, Mount Allison, a short 40-minute drive away in Sackville.
We definitely have 4 seasons in Greater Moncton. So let's get the big one that everyone wants to know about out of the way first, winter. In winter, which is mid-December to mid-March, the average lows range from -10 to -15 degrees Celsius, while highs will be in the -5, right around the freezing mark. We've had it pretty easy the last few years, but we can get significant snowfalls. The good thing is that we're equipped for it. So even with heavy snowfalls where we might get 30 centimeters or more of snow, within 6 to 12 hours, the city is back up and running with all the roads cleared. Those types of storms would also close schools and some businesses depending on road conditions. All in all, even though we may see more winter than other parts of the country, we don't see it as a bad thing. It can be a great time for outdoor activities you won't experience unless you're here. Our spring, roughly mid-March to mid-May, starts with lows around -5 in March, and that rises to about 7 degrees by May. Highs range from 5 to 17 degrees Celsius. Spring is often wet and a little unpredictable with fluctuating temperatures. We're okay with it because we know that summer is just around the corner.
And speaking of summers, our summers last from mid-May to mid-September or so.
Not long enough.
Average lows are around 12 degrees, while highs can reach 25 degrees or higher. For the most part, our summers are warm and humid, but it's also the driest time of year, so it's great beach weather, which we have lots of around here. In fall, the average lows drop from 10 in late September to just below freezing in November, and highs range from 20 to about 8 degrees as the season winds down. Going for a walk in the woods or drive out in the country on a nice fall day among the foliage can be absolutely beautiful, and everyone should experience it.
Absolutely. New Brunswick's healthcare system continues to face significant challenges, including exceptionally long wait times for medical procedures. It's not unusual to have to wait more than 1 year for medically necessary surgeries. That's nearly double the national average, and according to the latest stats, only 79% of residents have a primary care provider.
If part of your lifestyle includes physical activity, Greater Moncton will not disappoint. We have several parks, including Irishtown Nature Park, Mapleton Park, Centennial Park, Mill Creek Nature Park, and Rotary Park, all of which have lots of trails for walking, running, cycling, or cross-country skiing. We have tons of baseball fields, a sports dome, we have several ice arenas, gyms, and court sports facilities, and more, so no lack of options for recreational activities.
As Moncton has grown, we certainly have noticed an increase in the volume of cars on the roads, which can cause congestion in and around popular roads and intersections. Having said that, we see a difference because we are longtime residents. But if you're coming from a larger city, you will likely chuckle about what we consider traffic.
The real estate market continues to be active in Greater Moncton, but things have slowed down over the last few months. For the most part, we've shifted towards a balanced market, but still sort of favoring sellers. Inventory is still on the low side, but growing, so buyers are seeing more options. With this, properly priced houses are still selling relatively quickly, but buyers are being a little more selective since they have more options. Prices show no signs of decreasing. The year-to-date average price of a detached home as of the end of September was $368,520. So even compared to the peak of the market in 2021 with record low inventory and bidding wars on what felt like just about every house, we're still over 32% higher today than we were then.
So does it still make sense to move to Moncton in 2024? Well, that will depend on your motivation. Some of the reasons we would not move to Moncton in 2024 are as follows. Don't move here if you think it's the perfect city. Moncton has most of the same challenges that other Canadian cities do. For example, when we talk about things like our cost of living being relatively low, we're not saying it hasn't skyrocketed like everywhere else. It's just gone up by the same amount. So our overall ranking hasn't changed. Same as the real estate market. With the average price doubling in the last 5 years, it's made it more difficult for longtime residents and first-time home buyers to buy a home. Lack of health care. If you have any health issues that require you to be followed on a regular basis, finding a doctor in New Brunswick will be a huge challenge. If you are a healthy person, we do have 2 hospitals with ERs and several clinics for that odd time that you need medical attention, so you'll probably be okay.
High-paying jobs. Like we talked about earlier, Greater Moncton does have a fairly healthy job market, but wages are a complaint we hear about. You'll find work, but there's a good chance you'll take a pay cut compared to your job in the province you left. And if you have highly specialized qualifications, you'll most likely find that your opportunities will be limited compared to bigger cities. Having said all that, we do have 2 hospitals, 3 universities, a strong fabrication sector, and some IT. So there are some opportunities out there.
Some of the reasons we would move to Moncton in 2024 are as follows. If it's a financial move, the benefit of selling in a more expensive market and buying in our market, even though our prices have doubled in the last 5 years, can still make sense. We are still among the best places in Canada to buy real estate. And with steady growth in our population, the demand for homes will continue to remain strong, keeping prices up. If you're in that mindset of keeping an eye on the prices for now until they drop, just think back to the peak of 2021, where a lot of people thought we were in a bubble that would soon burst. Here we are 3 years later. The house that they didn't buy is worth about 30% more today.
Now let's talk about lifestyle. Another motivating factor for a lot of people is the search for a slower pace of life with less stress and to get away from that daily grind. The stories we hear about what some of our past buying clients used to deal with on a daily basis just to get the kids to daycare and get themselves to work just sounds exhausting to us. So even though we've grown substantially as a population in Moncton, it's not really the type of city where you'll be dealing with like crowds or traffic everywhere you go. You can generally get to where you need to go with relative ease. The city is also not sprawled out, so you can get from one end of the city to the other in like 20 minutes or less.
And for added peace and quiet, if you look outside of the more populated areas, you'll often find larger properties that will give you and your family more room and privacy. So when you're home, you can feel fully relaxed and decompress from the day.
So based on all of these factors we just covered, for the typical situation, the answer is yes, it still makes sense to move to Moncton in 2024.
If you want to find out if it makes sense for you, reach out to us using our contact info in the description and let's chat. We are Denise and Marc. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.